How the Catholic Church helped shape the anti-abortion movement in America. U.S. investigators uncovered alleged corruption by Mexico's former security minister years before he was indicted. Additional classified items found in Biden's Delaware home during Justice Department search, attorney says. Prince Harry's military instructor staggered by spare claims. Prince Andrew considering option to overturn sex abuse settlement.
This is breaking news.
I'm Erin Burnett in Washington.
How the Catholic Church helped shape the anti-abortion movement in America. From its inception in 1974, the annual March for Life has been a surefire place to encounter a host of Catholic clergy, laypersons, nuns, and monks. As the largest Christian denomination in the United States, the Catholic Church has situated itself at the forefront of the nation's anti-abortion movement for decades, from policy advocacy at the state and national levels to praying and protesting outside abortion clinics to maintaining a wide network of services for pregnant women and infants in towns and cities across the country. With the downfall of Roe v. Wade and the issue of abortion now a state legislative issue, the anti-abortion movement and the Catholic Church's involvement are entering a new phase. In an interview with the Washington Examiner, Michael Burbidge, the Bishop of the Diocese of Arlington and the chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops' Committee for Pro-Life Activities, reflected on the Church's role in the fight against abortion. The Church has been steadfast. We have been tireless and relentless in proclaiming the gospel of life, that all life is sacred and is from God, Burbidge said. We never wavered, and we never will, because it's the truth, it's the joy of the gospel, and so what we have done, we will continue to do. Amid the new legal landscape, Burbidge noted that the movement has entered a new moment in time, that their work is really just beginning. We have to continue our work on the federal level, but we also have to devote more now than ever, our resources, our energy, our strategies, to the local level, the bishop said. And I think it does give us a moment to say, what are the new strategies? What are the new plans? How are we going to open doors to elected officials who disagree with us, because we have to get plugged in, and we have to try to be compelling, inspiring, and try, God willing, to transform hearts. Brian Birch, the president of Catholic Vote, a conservative Catholic political advocacy group, told the Washington Examiner that the Church's intellectual foundation to its moral teachings helped shape a generation of legal minds that ultimately led to the overturn of Roe last year. I think it's unmistakable that the Church's social teaching is grounded in a coherent intellectual idea about law itself, Birch said. That idea one might call a natural law understanding of civil law has undergirded the judicial philosophy that shaped judicial confirmations and ultimately, Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Burbidge, who offered the opening prayer at the 50th Annual March for Life on Friday, said the Church's disregard for public opinion and focus on the truth provides a great witness despite the fact that a substantial portion of Catholics support some form of legal abortion. A recent Marist poll, commissioned by the Knights of Columbus, a Catholic fraternal organization, found that 51% of U.S. Catholics supported abortion through at least the first 3 months of pregnancy, although that percentage dropped to 33% among self-professed practicing Catholics. We have a lot of work to do in evangelizing our own people who profess the Catholic faith, the bishop acknowledged. We are committed to using every resource we have to try to win and to transform hearts and minds. We need to be in pointing out how we say yes to life. Burbidge pointed to the host of resources the Catholic Church provides to women who have had or are considering abortion as evidence of the Church's commitment to life beyond policy advocacy. We have to continue our advocacy, we have to continue speaking with our elected officials and legislators, but also at the heart of it is our service, he said. Our service has to be made very clear of how we say yes to life. We won't stop supporting women financially, psychologically, emotionally. We're going to be with you. We're going to walk with you. That's going to continue to be at the heart of our work. Patrick Kelly, the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, told the Washington Examiner that his organization was already taking steps to provide assistance to pregnant women in need. For years, the organization has purchased ultrasound machines for crisis pregnancy centers. In a post-Roe world, so much of the work that needs to happen is going to happen on the state level, Kelly said. It's going to happen in a pregnancy resource center or in a maternity home, so that's part of what the Knights of Columbus has done. U.S. investigators uncovered alleged corruption by Mexico's former security minister years before he was indicted. ProPublica is a nonprofit newsroom that investigates abuses of power. Sign up to receive our biggest stories as soon as they're published. When federal prosecutors walk into the United States Courthouse in Brooklyn on Monday to present their opening statements against Genaro Garcia Luna, the highest-ranking Mexican official ever tried in the United States for drug corruption, they will unveil a complex case that took years to build. But the fuller story of the government's investigation of Garcia Luna, a former security minister who was arguably the United States' most important Mexican partner in a long and failed effort to transform his country's criminal justice system, is hardly a triumph of determined American law enforcement. Investigators from the Drug Enforcement Administration uncovered evidence of Garcia Luna's secret alliance with violent drug traffickers more than 10 years ago, months before he stepped down from office in 2012. By the next year, they had enough to present their findings to the head of the DEA, who urged them to press ahead to an indictment. But as the investigators continued to build their case over the next few years, federal prosecutors in Houston rejected it repeatedly as insufficient, several current and former officials told ProPublica. Finally, the case stalled. They wanted more, said Stephen S. Whipple, who supervised the investigation for several years as a deputy chief and then head of the DEA office in Houston. I thought we had enough to charge the guy, but they said no, and they were the lawyers. The case did not move forward until early 2019, after a government witness in the trial of the Mexican kingpin Joaquin Guzman Loera, known as El Chapo, told of paying Garcia Luna more than $6 million in cash on behalf of Guzman's so-called Sinaloa cartel. Soon after that testimony, prosecutors from the Eastern District of New York, based in Brooklyn, began putting together the case on which they arrested Garcia Luna in December of that year. The evidence developed by the Houston agents quickly became a central part of their case, officials familiar with the inquiry said. Garcia Luna has pleaded not guilty. But if he is convicted, his betrayal would point to one of the more extraordinary intelligence failures of the decades-long U.S. battle against the drug trade in Mexico. The Eastern District prosecutors have also indicted two of Garcia Luna's closest former aides, Luis Cardenas Palomino and Ramon Pequeño Garcia, on similar charges and will likely seek their extradition after the trial, officials said. A third former Garcia Luna aide, Iván Reyes Arzate, who for years oversaw elite police units that worked with U.S. agents on sensitive investigations, has already pleaded guilty to U.S. corruption charges. Starting in the late 1990s, when Garcia Luna left Mexico's civilian intelligence service to help reorganize the federal police, he spent nearly 15 years at the center of the two governments' joint efforts to build a more effective, less corrupt criminal justice system in Mexico. For 6 years, Garcia Luna ran the Federal Investigative Agency, a police force modeled vaguely on the FBI. Starting in late 2006, as President Felipe Calderón sought much wider U.S. help to fight drug mafias and transform the criminal justice system, Garcia Luna served for years as his powerful Secretary of Public Safety. Yet even as he won public praise in Washington, Garcia Luna was the target of repeated accusations of corruption by others in the Mexican security apparatus. Some of those officials said they confided their suspicions to Calderón. Some shared what they knew privately with U.S. embassy officials. A few spoke out openly. Garcia Luna speaks with then-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in March 2009. Luis Acosta/AFP via Getty Images. American officials who served in Mexico City at the time described an environment perpetually clouded with rumors of corruption that were almost always difficult to verify. They said they tried to investigate the most significant allegations, but rarely came to satisfying results. Former American diplomats also said that while they had access to U.S. intelligence, they had little or no information that was developed about Garcia Luna and other officials in federal law enforcement investigations. "I never saw any corroborated information of involvement in drug trafficking," a former U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Roberta S. Jacobson, tweeted following Garcia Luna's arrest. Yet, given Garcia Luna's central role in both the fight against organized crime and the longer-term police reform project, the due diligence done by U.S. officials who worked with him is certain to look less compelling against the incriminating information that federal prosecutors will start to reveal in their opening statements on Monday. The Eastern District prosecutors have prepared more than 60 possible witnesses and tens of thousands of pages of documentary evidence, people familiar with the case said. The star witnesses are expected to include the Mexican trafficker who first told his story to DEA agents in Houston in 2012, Sergio Villarreal Barragan, a hulking former police agent known as El Grande. But the case still faces some legal hurdles. The most important may be the 5-year statute of limitations that covers drug and corruption crimes. The prosecutors have sought to circumvent this obstacle by charging that Garcia Luna joined the Sinaloa Capos in a continuing criminal enterprise. Like the more commonly used Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations, or RICO, Act, the so-called CCE statute is used to impose longer prison sentences on